Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Saturday morning the 27th of September. It's very nearly my birthday, you know, very nearly. In this video, we are going back to Nova Scotia to the case of missing siblings 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan from Lansdowne Station. I've talked about Jack and Lily's case a lot, got a lot of videos now on the case, and we don't seem to be inching that far forward, do we? We really don't. We get a little nugget of information here and a little nugget of information there. We get things from Daniel, which are interesting, but if you consider Daniel a suspect, then you've got to take everything he says with a grain of salt, especially because he hasn't been entirely consistent, has he? So there's that. We have had an influx of information from the RCMP, the release of the court documents, which was useful. This information takes us up to the 16th of July. So we're 2 months beyond that. We have to assume that the RCMP have got more than they had back in July, you would hope. In the last few days, we've had cadaver dogs on the scene for the first time. Talked a lot about cadaver dogs recently. As far as I know, they are still there. They started searching on Monday and did the property twice. Each dog did the property, and then they've been searching along the pipeline trail around the area of the bootprints, but that's all we know. The question, have they found anything, is hanging in the air. Have they found anything of interest? Have they found the boots? If it's true that at the time that they did find the boot prints, there was some barefooted prints along with the boot prints, it would indicate to me either there's 3 people there, 1 barefooted. We are not aware of any other children missing in the area, so we have to assume there wasn't a 3rd child with them. Could there be prints from a different time? If so, what kid was out there barefooted? But it's a bit out of the way, considering where the boot prints actually were, according to Daniel. This is according to Daniel. Now, the DT show has released some information from Daniel about the exact location of the boot prints, which we didn't have before. So you can formulate a new theory based on this information. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to explore the possibility that the blanket location and the boot prints location are consistent with a certain direction of travel that Lilly and Jack might have taken. Let's go. The DT show has got videos from Janie and Daniel saying where the blanket was located. So I've put that location onto my map and they say it's here. So not as far up Lansdowne Road as the pipeline. This is the pipeline trail here. And then the blanket was next to an old ATV trail that Janie says is no longer used. And this is just over 1 kilometre away from Jack and Lily's house. If we measure this in kilometres from the end of the driveway, and then we do up Lansdowne Road to the blanket, so 1.18 kilometres, just over 1 kilometre. So is that consistent with what it says in the court documents? Because if we're formulating a new theory, we do have to incorporate what we actually know, and just make stuff up or ignore stuff that we actually know as fact. So, this is what the court documents say about the pink blanket location. On May 2nd, 2025, family members taking part in the search for Jack and Lilly located a pink blanket. That blanket has been sent off for forensic testing. We don't know the results of that. It was Haley, Hayden, they are Malaya's siblings, and Hayden's girlfriend, came out of the woods to say they had found a pink blanket in the woods in a tree on Lansdowne Station Road. Now, I've talked a lot about this because Lansdowne Station Road is down here. This is Lansdowne Road. This is Lansdowne Station Road here. And they are two separate roads. In the court documents, it says the blanket was found a kilometre down the road on Lansdowne Station Road, which would put it about here. Like I said in previous videos, well, the blanket and the boot prints are in opposite direction. How could we possibly say, you know, Lilly went down here, dropped a blanket in a tree, so threw a blanket in a tree, went all the way back up along here and then went to the pipeline? What, they're doing like a whole tour of the area. So that didn't make sense to me. So I can only assume, given Janie says that the location was here, that the cops just got the name of the road wrong. So they showed a picture to Malaya and Daniel, who confirmed the blanket belonged to Lilly. Corporal Martin and his police dog were called to the area, took photographs of the blanket. He walked for about a kilometre in the area with his dog on an adjacent trail. They did not pick up a scent to complete a track. We do know, though, that these were not scent-specific dogs. These were air-scenting dogs, completely different ways that they are searching for someone. I've got a detailed video about the difference between air scent and ground scent, so go and check that out, please. It's an important video. Malaya believed that it was part of Lily's blanket, which had been put in the trash at an earlier date because it was ripped. Daniel was using it as some kind of protector from the weather, like drafts and stuff, but it was ultimately put in the trash. So was this piece of blanket not put in the trash? Was it taken out of the trash? You know, there's a lot of speculation on whether it was planted. If so, why? Why there? There's too many unknowns about this blanket. But one of the officers went to measure the blanket location in relation to the house, and it was exactly 1 kilometre from Jack and Lily's residence. Well, measuring it on here, it's just a little bit over. It's not easy to do this. Like, you get bumps in it, which add distance. So 1.1 kilometres. So exactly one. But that's where Janie says the blanket was located. Now, what DT has been told by Daniel regarding the boot prints is interesting. That Daniel has said that the boot prints were about halfway between Lansdowne Road and then another road here. So you put it about there, maybe. I've always thought that the boot prints were on this side. I don't know why. I think probably because the residence is at this side, and I thought, well, if they've gone through the woods, they've gone up this trail and then gone onto the pipeline that way. So the boot prints might be along here. Also, the fact that there was water searches in this direction then led me to speculate on whether the boot prints were further over here. We know that these ponds here on the campground were searched on May 8th. We know that Lansdowne Lake was searched on May 9th. So I speculated whether cops believe Jack and Lilly went this way, went up here onto the pipeline, left boot prints in this part of the earth, and then went back, so, you know, or maybe on the way home, went to the lake and then fell in. But I suppose they're just checking these bodies of water for the sake of completeness. Because if the boot prints really were found over in this direction, for Jack and Lilly to have fallen into Lansdowne Lake, you know, they'd have had to have gone up here, left the blanket, gone up here, and then maybe gone along here, down here, and then fell in the lake. You know, again, it's another tour of the area. They're only 6 and 4. Now, look, a 6-year-old can get fair ways. Jenny doesn't believe that they're in the woods, though, because she says Jack doesn't like walking in the woods. Like in the undergrowth, you've got to carry him. So Jack tailing along, how did Lilly get him to go? Because that's a fair walk. Let's measure all that out. Let's just take this theory to its completion. So along here, Lilly, for whatever reason, throws the blanket in a tree and then goes along this trail. This is a trail that DT speculates they might have taken, and it makes sense because there is a trail that goes all the way up here to here, and if the boot prints were found a little bit along here, then you're looking at 2.4 kilometres, which is in miles. 1 kilometre is 0.6 miles. So you're looking at about 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometres. But then, if the cops thought, well, maybe they've gone to Lansdowne Lake, then they'd have had to have walked all the way along here, okay, down here, and then gone to the lake. That's 5.6 kilometres. I think that's too far, but I guess they were only checking this lake for the sake of completeness, just in case these boot prints weren't Jack and Lily's, and this blanket, for whatever reason, had been planted in this direction. So it makes sense that they would check these bodies of water. I would think it was negligent if they didn't, but they didn't find anything. But they have tried to work out whether these boots were belonging to Jack and Lilly. And I do like this in the court documents because this is good police work. Let's go to the boot prints, analysis of boot prints. So between May 3rd and May 27th, efforts were made to confirm that the boot print located on the pipeline in the search area belonged to Lilly. Oh, and by the way, in these court documents, they don't say that barefooted footprints were found as well. And if the barefooted footprints belonged to either Jack or Lilly because they'd taken their boots off to maybe get stones out of their boots, who hasn't done that on a walk, or they've lost the boots in another way, well, wouldn't their boots be found in that location? Wouldn't the boots have already been found? But without scent-specific dogs on the scene at the time, I think a scent-specific dog might have found the boots if they'd come off and, are in the undergrowth somewhere. Okay, so May the 3rd, Forensic Identification Services took a cast. May 23rd, the cast of the boot print showed a specific number, 29. So they went to Walmart and located several sizes of the same boot. The number consistent with the case 29 was only found on a size 11 boot, but other sizes had different numbers. For example, size 12 had the number 30, size 10 had the number 27. Malia said, when asked, she thought Lilly wore a size 12 or 13, but she was wrong, because on May 27th, Constable Hall went to Walmart in New Glasgow with a record of Walmart transactions provided by Malaya. Able to confirm, Malaya purchased Lilly's rainbow boots on March the 20th, and the number corresponded to a size 11 boot. Because Lilly's boot was confirmed to be a size 11, it's consistent with the boot print located on the pipeline trail in the search area near their address. Let's put all of this together. Let's assume that the blanket was left by Lilly, threw it up into a tree. Why they would have walked along here, I don't know. What I'd like to know is, did Daniel and Janie take them for walks along here? Are they familiar with this location? If they're familiar with the location because they go for walks along there, gives credence to the fact that they would have walked that way, just going for a walk, or just going out to play. If they'd never been there before, why would they go there this time? Why wouldn't they go to somewhere that was more familiar? So I'd like to know from Daniel and Janie whether these were walks that they used to take, because, Daniel and Janie have said that they used to take the kids in the woods, and Janie said that she had to carry Jack. So, again, how did Lilly persuade him to go? All right, so let's do this walk. Let's assume that Jack and Lily went for a walk along here, messed about with the blanket, threw it up into a tree, went along this ATV trail, which would be fairly easy to walk, and then went up here and went in this direction to leave boot prints in some soft earth. Where did they go from there? Well, here's the problem. The further they walk along here, the further they go outside of the search area. We've been told that they searched 8.5 square kilometres, which, if you work it out, gives a radius of about 1.65 kilometres. Putting Jack and Lily's address in the middle of the circle, this is 1.65 kilometres all the way around. Now, it doesn't mean to say that the 8.5 square kilometres was a perfect circle. They could have kind of veered more in this direction. So, like, the circle was like that. It doesn't even have to be a circle, because 8.5 square kilometres is an area. It doesn't necessarily mean it's in a circle shape. But this was just the way I could put it on a map. So they may have done less searching down here and more searching up here. Although, bear in mind, they did search this and they did search this. But what if Lily and Jack, leaving their boot prints along here, carried on walking? Where would they go then? Because you've got a road here, you've got a road here, you've got a road up here, road along here, all the way down. How far would they have gone? And where were they going? Because if they're walking along a road, they now know they're lost. Wouldn't they turn back and go in the direction of which they came? Even a 6-year-old and 4-year-old, I think, would understand if they were lost to go back to the direction they came. Or would they? Would they just panic? Would they think they were going in the right direction, but they weren't? So if they got to here and decided to go back, well, all they have to do is go down here. But if they were panicking, maybe they forget and they go the wrong way and go up here. How far would they have got? It's like looking for a needle in 1,000 haystacks. These routes are walkable, and it's perfectly plausible that they have gone outside of the search area. Now, what hazards are out here? Well, there's water there. You see, I've never looked this far out, but it doesn't mean to say that they stayed on this pipeline trail, because if they got this far, then they've got options. Up here, along here, up here, along here, down here, all the way along here, to down here, down up here. It is literally a needle in 1,000 haystacks. So, for these Kadaava dogs, I'm hoping that they've found stuff that are leading them in a particular direction. The fact that the court documents end on the 16th of July means that there's an extra 2 months of investigative work that could have narrowed down this location, because it's a viable theory that they went this way. It makes sense if you assume that Jack and Lily left the house with that blanket on their own and the blanket wasn't planted. It at least makes more sense why the blanket was in this location and then the boot prints up here. It does make more sense than thinking, well, the blanket's down here and the boot prints are over here. At least it gives a direction of travel. But this information is from Daniel and Janie, not from the RCMP. So you've got to take it with a grain of salt. It is consistent with where they spent a lot of time searching. We know that they searched along the pipeline trail when they did those 2 weekend searches. You know, they packed in, toned down the search on May 7th, then came back and did these ponds May 8th, May 9th, and then there was an extra 2 weekends, like towards the end of May, where they did searching along this pipeline trail. So the focus has always been along here. So I think cops have assumed that the boot prints were Lily's and they're in this direction. But they could have walked a lot further than anybody has given them credit for. you know, the RCMP say that there's no sign of an abduction. And I think if they'd gone this far, I don't think they were abducted, because they're in the middle of nowhere. You know, for anybody else to be out there who would have the motivation to abduct 2 children, it's very, very, very unlikely. More likely if they were walking along this road, because somebody's going to pass them and crime of opportunity. But once you get down here, it's totally out of the way. But again, I'd like to know whether Lilly and Jack were familiar with this route. Because if they're familiar with this route, then it makes sense that they'd go that way. To go there when they'd never been there ever before, you start to stretch the credibility of it somewhat. Kids do the darndest things, though. They don't do something until they do it. The cops don't seem to be looking at the family as suspects. They've all passed polygraphs. Does it mean that the RCMP don't have information that might lead them back in that direction? No. They may well come across some new evidence that points them back in the family's direction. And if Lilly and Jack's bodies had been deposited somewhere, well, the chances are, given all of this woodland, the chances are they're not going to be found unless someone talks. But if Jack and Lilly did leave of their own volition and these boot prints are theirs, then they're in here somewhere, I would think. Let's just hope that the Kadaava dogs find something, because the longer this goes on, the more painful it becomes. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.